Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Have you ever felt that you had an idea for a careers book stuck inside of you? Did you ever want to learn how to take that idea for a book and see it on sale on Amazon? If you're nodding your head right now as you're watching the show, whether you're watching live or on the replay, drop us a yes or no in the comments section. We're going to love hearing from you. As always, engage with us. If you've got questions for our guests that we've got coming up today, let us know in the comments box. Drop your questions there. We'll make a point to make sure that we can get them answered for you. Now, in this episode, I'm being joined by published co-author John Ambrose, who's going to take us on a journey from idea to publication. And he's going to be talking about his book that he co-authored with Mark Wilkinson, and the book is called The Bonkers Book of Jobs. Now, have you heard about this book? Type yes if you have in the comments section. Perhaps maybe you already have the book. If you do, send us a screen grab of this. Now, you're probably hearing and you're probably seeing that there's someone new. You're probably thinking, where's Chris gone? And you're right to observe that for our regular viewers, because today I am joined by my new co-host in this episode called Mark Smith of SPW Careers, and I'm going to be getting him to introduce himself and going into more detail about how he came about doing this new co-host job. Now, during the show, we will reveal what the journey for becoming a careers author looks like. We will explore some of the pitfalls, how you can avoid them, and also John's going to be revealing to us all what the best way is for you to connect with publishers as well. Plus, as always, we've got the latest bite-sized news stories to keep you, our career professionals, up to date. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on whatever platform that you're watching, because today we're going live on LinkedIn today as well, so that you don't miss out on any of our jam-packed shows. So those of you that don't know me, my name is Meet Sabiha, and I work internationally, working with young students as well, helping them to transform their careers potential. But I'm also creator of the 4.0 Class Academy, which is all about upskilling international career guidance counselors, helping them deliver even more powerful career support to their clients. Now, football's over, Wimbledon's over. How are you planning on spending your summer? Are you thinking about writing a career book? Type yes in the chat box if you are. Now, there's a famous saying and a famous quote. Perhaps you've heard this. Everyone does have a book in them, but in most cases, that's where it should stay. And today we're going to discover which one of these ideas, the books, should be put out there into the world. You see, I know that so many of our viewers work in a broad range of specialisms with career professionals. So chances are, you've got a skill set, you've got knowledge and experience that many others would benefit from. Or perhaps you've already been toying with the idea to write a book, or perhaps maybe it's not even a book, but it's maybe a blog or articles, but you just don't know where to start. Well, today's guest, John Ambrose, co-author of the Bonkers Book of Jobs, is going to reveal a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes to become a published author. But firstly, before I do that, I want to introduce you to Mark, our new co-host. So Mark, what should our viewers know about you, and what kind of work are you currently doing in the CIAG profession?
Hi everyone. I like that. What they should know about me, rather than what they shouldn't know about me. Yeah. So tell them what you should. I don't want you to know about me, so I'll tell you what you should know about me. Many of you might know me. I've been a career advisor for 21 years now. So worked in lots and lots of different places. I started my career off in Hull, my hometown, where we piloted Connections, which really ages me, doesn't it? So we were actually part of the pilot program for Connections before Connections even happened and then disappeared, as it were. I had a wonderful time in Hull, very much my favourite city for lots of reasons, and was quite young at the time, so that's where I sort of made my friends in careers. Often known as my drinking buddies as well. So I love my time in Hull. And then my career sort of headed south slowly. So I met John quite after that. I moved to Lincolnshire Connections, where John was working as well. I looked after the south of the county. Again, lovely team, sort of supported in very much a Connections, where spent about 3 or 4 years in Lincolnshire. Then moved on. Sounds like I move a lot, doesn't it? I'm slightly concerned out there. So some of them do I come back. I went to Peterborough for a little bit, working Connections with Peterborough. I went back to Hull to do another pilot scheme in Hull. then moved to Bedford for a little bit, then back to Lincolnshire, was involved in another pilot in Lincolnshire, really enjoyed doing that work. And then I moved even further south. I headed into Deakin Starkey's southwest, the UK. So I'm now based in Swindon, but I was working in Reading and in Cheltenham and in Bristol, initially for Pearson PLC, then as part of Inspiring Futures. And I know a lot of people who are watching and listening to this will know Inspiring Futures, often known as ISCO as well. So we worked with a lot of the private schools at that point. My role was, again, looking after the south of the country, but I also started picking up some of the international work that Inspiring Futures was doing as well. I love my travel, so I just sort of grabbed that with both hands and went, whoa, yeah. So every opportunity to volunteer to go and help out in one of our overseas schools, I grabbed. Suddenly realised that actually working overseas and travel are not necessarily one and the same thing. Working overseas doesn't mean laying on a beach for a week, unfortunately. Never laying on a beach. I've been to Egypt 5 times, not seen a pyramid yet, which is disappointing. I know. We've just timed it so badly that we've just never had the opportunity to find those gaps. So around 3 years ago, I was in a position where I always say we bought out the international arm of Inspiring Futures. We didn't. They gave us it quite happily in some ways, I think. So we took over the international role. So SPW Careers, my company that I set up with colleagues, and the S of SPW Careers, very much focus on international schools, so supporting international schools. So keeping my journey south, I looked on an atlas to try and figure out how far south I've actually managed to get. Indonesia was as far south as I've now been as part of my journey heading south. There's not much further to go before I start heading back north again, is my understanding of geography. So that's what we do. We support international schools, do careers guidance. So everything a career advisor might do in a UK school, we do, but with international students in schools around the world. And over the last couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to then start working back in the UK, and we work with a few schools in the UK as well. I've just spotted that Liz has mentioned that she's in sunny Malvern. I work in sunny Malvern. We support Malvern College School as one of the schools we support in the UK. So that's me. Find me on LinkedIn, I think is a really good way to say it. But I always say that to people, and they say, well, but your name's Mark Smith. There's quite a number of Mark Smiths on LinkedIn, so good luck trying to find me on LinkedIn.
It was so hard. I'm going to just add there, when Mark told me to do this, I was like, yeah, Mark, you might just need to send me a request, because finding you was a nightmare. I think like 1,000+ came up. So I love that, but definitely. And we're going to be dropping, as always, all of the sort of contact information, both for John and for our guest today, John, and Mark, in the show's resources document. And that you can only have access to if you are part of the exclusive CDI Facebook community. Now, for those of you that are watching the show, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, that's great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We love having careers professionals joining us. And if you're interested and you want to learn, what is the CDI group and how do I become a member? It's really easy. Head on over to the CDI website, and there's information about how you can become part of this amazing collaborative community. And speaking of communities, Mark, each week we like to, or each show should I say, we like to celebrate some of our brand newest members who've joined the community. So who are we celebrating today, Mark?
Oh, am I doing this bit? I thought you were doing this bit.
Oh, do you want me to do it? I can do this bit, of course.
John, do you want to do this bit?
I know. Okay, so I can take over a bit, that's fine. So we've got a whole host. We've got more than 15 new members who have joined today. And if you're watching us live, please do drop a clapping emoji in the comment section, because it's always great to welcome and show these new members how amazing and how talented this community is. And a list of all the names, because there's a big list, so I'm not going to run through the whole list, but the big list of names will be dropped in the comment section so that you can see, did your name get mentioned? And if you have just recently joined and you're watching us, pop in the chat and come and say hello to us and introduce yourself and let us know what area of, the careers profession you're currently working in. And perhaps maybe if you are, a member or a colleague that's joined recently as well, make sure you tag them so that we can celebrate together. And as always, hit that like button, because if you're enjoying these shows, and the awesome guests that we get to bring each time, make sure that you've hit that subscribe or bell button, on YouTube channel, so you can continue to watch and benefit, whether you're a member or a non-member. So Mark, who's up? Do you want to head on over and introduce our guest for today then?
Yes, I will do. I'm just going to mention some of the comments because everyone's just showing off how hot it is. So all we're getting is a list of comments telling me that Glasgow, Nottingham, South West Wales, Stockport, Malvern, everywhere's really hot and scorching. And it's also hot and scorching here in Swindon. And John, where are you based, John?
I'm in Lincolnshire, so I'm in Lincoln itself. Yeah, so I'm here from here today. Do you want me to just head on in and explain a little bit more?
John, yeah. Introduce yourself, yeah.
No, smashing. I do feel a little bit kind of, I don't know how to follow on from you there, Mark, with all the places that you've been working, really. And I've actually been working in career development now for 20 years, but predominantly in Lincolnshire for 20 years kind of thing. But I'll just explain a little bit more about that journey, because it really helps to bring together to the present state about what I do now, and also the Bonkers Book of Jobs too, because that's significant. But I mean, basically, like Mark, I was there at the start of Connections. So that's where I joined and started working with careers following doing the qualification in careers guidance at Nottingham Trent. Did many years in guidance, and then moved more into more careers education, school support role. And I did that pretty much through Connections into the local authority. And then in 2015, when governments and local authorities were hit with austerities and cutting budgets, coupled with at the same time the statutory guidance and responsibility for looking after careers moved from local authorities to schools, that's when our local authority, like many others in the country, just really got rid of their careers offer. So we were made redundant, which is really significant when I come back later on to a lot of the inspiration behind Bonkers, actually. But at the same time, at that time, when careers was pretty much at the bottom of the floor nationally for career development work in school, myself and a couple of colleagues thought, I know what, let's set up a careers company. So we did that, and that's Complete Careers. And I'm the director of Complete Careers. And we work predominantly in Lincolnshire doing guidance work, but we've got a national and international base through the main part of our business, which is called Career Mark, which is a licensed awarding body for the National Quality and Career Standard in England and in the Channel Islands. But it's also an award in its own right for Career Mark International, so working with Mark, and also Career Mark Primary, which is hopefully going to be endorsed by the National Quality Award later this year. So that's a little bit more about me. I've got a master's in careers development, and I did that at Nottingham Trent in 2013. What I will say, though, although I've only really been working predominantly in Lincolnshire, my work does take me everywhere. So, we do travel the country to do training. We do the National Career Leader training. We do assessments up and down the country. I've lectured at Nottingham Trent. I'm an associate at ISEGS at Derby. But also, we've done some curriculum frameworks for Abu Dhabi. We've also done some career leader training for the Lebanon that we're working on at the moment. And we've done 2 research trips to Canada as well from Lincolnshire. So we do get about, but the base of our work is always in Lincolnshire.
See, John's been modest there. So although John's in Lincolnshire, more people know John than me. John's very much involved at a national level. I mean, many people I speak to will know John, and actually will know Mark Wilkinson as well, the co-author of the book. So very much seen as a bit of a team. Them and Janet Hutchinson as well. Is that the 3 of you? Yeah.
That's right. And Ron James as well as our fourth.
Right, and very much known throughout careers in the UK, and I'm sure people who are watching this will know John. Will know John's name if they've never actually met him personally.
And now we're putting a face to it. Now we're putting a face to him, isn't it? So, like you say, sometimes I see
one at that, John.
I know. Look at him, and he's all. And the funny thing is, I mean, look at him. He's wearing a shirt. I mean, speaking of the heat, I was just like, there is no way I can put a shirt on with the heat.
It's
and everything.
Short sleeve, wasn't it?
Oh, I like that. I'm like in shorts, and I'm like, yeah, cash. So loving it, making the most of this lovely
weather.
I've
got an ice pack just to the side of me.
Oh, I love that. I've got my fan on over here as well. Now, we've got a really jam-packed show today. So, John, I just want to ask, because I know a lot of our viewers will want to know if they were interested, because you do so much, like you've shared, as Mark rightly pointed out, you're doing so much across so many broad ranges. if people are interested, something that you've said that they've gone, oh my God, that's really piqued their interest. What's the best way, John, that people can reach out to you and connect with you? What's your platform or website?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So personally, it's through LinkedIn, John Ambrose. The website for Complete Careers is the best way to find out more about what we do, and that is www.complete-careers.com.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. Now, the theme today, how to become a published author this summer, turning your dream of writing a careers book from dream to reality without the overwhelm. And you've touched upon this already a little bit about sort of the journey and how it sort of, how it came about, that actually it was redundancy. So almost like out of adversity, I sort of feel that's what I'm kind of picking up on, John, is it that this book came about. But tell me and the viewers and Mark, what made you write the book, Bonkers Book, of Jobs? And, and was it inspired as a result of the sort of, whether it was the one-to-one work or the the group sessions that you do as a professional?
Yeah, no, it's been really an interesting journey, to be honest. And you're quite right, it did come from adversity to really create the ideas. And as you said at the start, I'm the co-author of the Bonkers Book of Jobs alongside Mark Wilkinson, and I have to stress, Mark is always been the one with the vision and the creativity kind of thing. So it was Mark's idea kind of thing. And we've worked together on this journey in Lincolnshire for many years too. But what was really interesting is, as we're coming out of the local authority, been handed our redundancy notices and thinking about what next, what was really interesting is that obviously colleagues all around us were redeploying, moving out of careers altogether and retraining. And we were thinking, well, I don't feel like I'm done yet. I'm thinking that there's something here that, young people need support. We're committed to what we do. We're passionate about what we do, whether it be careers education, whether it be careers guidance, or broader strands of career development. So we thought we had something to give, and we wanted to, that's why we set up Complete Careers. But also we thought that because careers has really been decimated at that time, which it was largely across the country, we thought, well, the normal way, the traditional way of working with schools isn't particularly working. So what we wanted to try and do is to look at a different route in, to try and appeal to the learner themselves, to actually, rather than saying, well, this is what you should be doing kind of thing, you need career support at these kind of ages. It's about trying to turn the dynamic completely the other way around and to say, look, let's try and get people that want to find out more, that want to get engaged, that want to get inspired and want to have fun with it. I think quite often with things like work and jobs and things like that, people always get connected with bad vibes, really. They think, well, homework or schoolwork or jobs around the house or something like that. But the way in which we kind of approach this is that it's almost like the adult's best kept secret going, that work is actually fantastic and you can do some amazing things out there. And adults are going out day in, day out, doing some weird and wonderful things, changing the world for the better. So we wanted to try and write in that kind of way to really bring some fun bits, but also some of the, key facts and broadening horizons along the way. So we just wanted to try and reshape how careers is spoken about as a phenomenon across the country, and to try and get young people to get inspired and want to find out more to start with, really.
And what I love about that, John, and you've kind of hit the nail on the head, because what I took away from your book, the book is that, that it's very practical as well. It's not like a stuffy read, if that makes sense to anybody. And I don't know for the viewers that are watching right now, John sort of talks about, how he turned, what could have been perceived as a very negative, could have left industry and gone, okay, fine, and gone to, but John was like, no, I've got still more to give and I want to stay and I want to figure out, and got creative, got innovative. Has there ever been a time in, and this is for the viewers, has there ever been a time in your career where you've experienced either something exactly the same as what John's been talking about and sharing with us today, or maybe something a little bit similar to this? If so, share it with us in the chat box comment, because we love hearing, these stories about career to professional. And, this is what I love about, one of the great things that I love about the show. Now, Mark, I know you've got the book with you right now, and I know you've got more questions for John, so go on, fire away.
Yeah, certainly. I got it for my daughter, who it's really interesting. So I've got the book and it's been written all over, which is actually would normally be a sacrilege in our house. We love books. We were behind me. We've got hundreds of thousands of books. But it is a book, which is a workbook, isn't it, John? And I've never looked at it. So it's her book, so I thought I don't want to have a look at it. But obviously, I was going through it before I gave her it, and then since she's a few years older now, so I've looked through what she's been saying, which was quite interesting. So some of the jobs she's interested in, some of them she rated more than others, was quite surprising to me, actually. It wasn't quite what I might have expected her to put, which was really interesting. I had a quick chat with her about it just before we joined there. And she sort of does remember, as I say, she did it a couple of years ago when it was very first out, but she does remember it, and she laughs at some of the things she put then, and self-reflect and all those things. I suppose what I'm interested in, knowing both you and Mark, and Mark's a wonderful guy as well, working collaboratively. I think a lot of us think we've got a book in us, but almost we need somebody to hold our hand. Was that sort of the case with you, John? It was like, I can't do it on my own, but if I've got a friend with me, it's going to make life a lot easier. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was that sort of part of it?
Yeah, it was. It really was. So, I mean, and I think you're right to explain it that way, about having somebody else on board to try and, share the journey. But I mean, it was Mark that was reaching out to me, actually, Mark Wilkinson, that reached out to me to be able to share the idea. We'd had discussions before to think about, well, what else can we do now that are about to be made redundant, kind of thing. And obviously we were setting up Complete Careers at the time. So this was something slightly separate, and this was something more of a personal journey for Mark and I that we embarked on. But the interesting thing is that because we'd worked together for at that time it would have been more like about 10 or 11 years, now on 15, 16 years, we knew each other quite well. We knew each other's work. We'd produced curriculum frameworks for Abu Dhabi. We'd written lesson plans. We'd written resources. We'd written activities, kind of thing. And we've got a similar kind of style. So that's really why he approached me to say, well, I've got this idea, kind of thing. And it was, the bare bones of it. And then from there, it took a little bit of time to adjust to, because it was something very different to what we used to. But to actually have we had some brilliant times where we met together for coffee, every week, and we could just kind of share what we thought around the format, around the structure. So it's kind of like Horrible Histories meets Jobs and Careers is the format of it. And it's kind of like around, 6 chapters, disgusting jobs, smelly jobs, weird jobs, cool jobs, stupid jobs, you name it, really. 6 jobs in each chapter. And then for the career purists out there, there's some Holland career theorists loose based on that, where you can go through and you can do your own kind of bonkers quiz at the end. But it was a really interesting journey. And I think what was most interesting is that when we were writing it, there was times where we would just be chuckling away all the way through. So we'd have this idea, and we just, the two of us were like giggling school children. We thought, well, maybe if we're like this, hopefully it can have the right kind of impact on young people too, and kids. So Mark approached me, and then we just went with it, kind of thing, and we put everything into it.
So I've got an advantage that I know Mark and John, and giggling school kids writing a book for about 10, 12-year-olds is actually their demographic perfectly in some ways. And when you look at the book, and I went through it, and I hadn't worked for John for a long time, or Mark, but you hear your voice in it, although it's aimed at that. You know what I mean? I know that you've sat in that pub in a way and had those conversations and gone, oh, this will be funny, or an 11-year-old will find this hilarious, and and you can read that in it really well. And as I said, my daughter,
they unleashed their inner child, basically, didn't they? And then they got paid for it. Now, isn't that the best way to build a career? I think that's just phenomenal. So, and some great points, John, that you're raising about sort of what that journey looked like for you. I know for some viewers that are watching who are sort of kind of toying with the idea, is there any pitfalls? If there was any tips, retrospectively looking back now, having already done the journey, and you've got, Mark today's got the physical book, and it's there, and it's in people's hands, it's on people's bookshelves. If there was something that you were going to say to yourself when you first started out, if there was like maybe 3 things, some of the pitfalls that people could avoid who are at the beginning phase of their journey, what would that be, John?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And I think one thing to stress really is that although the book's out there now, it does really feel that we're still at the very start of the journey. Really, there's so many places we'll go to this, and to look at further books and to look at alternative medias with it as well. So we've had a very busy time over the last 18 months just trying to adjust to the world kind of thing, as everybody else has. But equally, for the last 5 years, setting up Complete Careers has been, very, very full time and some kind of thing. So it's going to be great to be able to put some more time into these kind of ideas. I mean, our book is very much more aimed at the young person kind of thing, aimed at the child kind of thing. And what was really interesting, to be honest, taking our careers knowledge and trying to adapt it into a book for Joe Public, really, was really interesting to get the publisher's views on that. So, for example, when we had it all created and sent it over, we finally got a publisher, and I'll explain a little bit about the process of that in a second, and also some of those tips. But out of interest, we called the book Crazy Careers, and the publisher said to us, well, really love the concept, can really see what you're trying to do, hate the title. Why can't we call it something more like the Bonkers Book of Jobs? And that kind of stuck, really. And sometimes it takes, especially if you're looking to do something around your kind of your day job, to try and bring it more into the public, it helps to get people that are not absorbed around career development 24/7 to look at things objectively and to be able to think, well, yeah, do you know what? That means that for you, but it might not mean the same for others. So, let's look at something that might be a bit more universal. So that was really interesting. The process we went through was around, we didn't want to go down the field of like vanity publishing to get self-published kind of thing. So we thought, somebody's going to like this, or it will kind of like fall flat. So we searched through to find out as many of these publishers that accepted like unsolicited manuscripts, then, so those that you can go to directly. And we kind of like told you in each of those publishers how they like to receive their manuscripts then. And it's basically, a synopsis, it's an introduction, it's a sample chapter kind of thing, and a bit more background. So we sent those off to the 12 that we found that were suitable, we thought, and it was a waiting game then. And we found one, and to be honest, we found one, and and they, the rest you would say was history, and here it is kind of thing. But as I mentioned before, it is still the beginning of the journey, and this kind of brings me back to the original question finally, which was more about the tips really moving forward. And I think this is key, because there would be things I'd do differently, and I know I can speak for Mark on this area too. The first part would be to have a bit more self-belief, really, and a bit more kind of, a bit more confidence. Obviously, at the time, we were going through redundancy, so we weren't oozing with self-confidence at the time anyway. But, I mean, and this was a really different kind of concept kind of thing. So I think we were really flattered when a publisher approached us and said, yeah, this sounds great, we want to go with this kind of thing. So, first of all, have the confidence to have, to be able to ask the questions of the publisher kind of thing, to make sure what they're going to do for you, what they're going to do for the book, how are they going to get it out there. Because what's happened overall, really, Candy Jars has been our publisher, and we've got a great relationship with Sean, but we're connected with education. And a lot of Sean's book are more kind of like for a niche type of group of children kind of thing. So it's not really quite got exactly where we wanted it to go. And it's been a surprise for us, really, because we didn't write this at all in the first instance, for working with schools. We wrote it to go straight to young people. But actually, most of the traction that we've had has been through our own contacts through schools. So have the confidence. Also, make sure that you kind of what you're getting from the publisher, and there is an intermediate step there, which is more about looking at literary agencies, because I think that's something with hindsight that I think Mark and I would have done, to be able to gone to a literary agent and to be able to say, well, this is what we're doing, this is what we're looking at, can you take this to an appropriate publisher that you might be working with? And there are many books around publishing that can help to show who all these literary agents are, who they specialize with, what kind of like reputation they've had, what kind of other books that they've had in the same kind of genre for what you're hoping to do, all these kind of things. And that really comes back to that confidence again, to be able to think, well, who are we going to aim for here? Go for the ones that are the most direct match, really, and to be able to go from there. We thought really that literary agents might be kind of like, greedy animals and gobble up all the profit kind of thing. And so we wanted to kind of like have a direct contact with our publisher. But I think obviously, the Bonkers Book of Jobs for us really is, as a first published author, Mark and I, we get 15% of the royalties. So, and that's around common really, I think, for first-time authors. And obviously, looking at around about 15% of like 1,000 to 2,000 sales, rather than something more like 5% of like 50 to 100,000 sales, that's a bit of a learning curve for us, kind of thing. So I think that, in a long-winded answer, that's kind of be where I'd go, and it would be have the confidence, explore literary agents, but whether it's the literary agent or the publisher, make sure that you know what they're going to do for you. Make sure it's clear, make sure you know their track record, and that by signing up with them, you're going to get all the exposure that you feel that your product deserves. This is very much a children's book, and viewers watching might have ideas like, there's so many fantastic books in career development, Tristan Hooley's and David Andrews, for example, career leader work, that are more from the academic side as well. And they'll have slightly different approaches for how they want to go, how they want to get to their target audience. But what we wanted to do, that was our journey. And that's how I'd do it slightly different if I had the time again. And that's the direction we go next, I think.
And do you know what, John? That's such a beautiful place to sort of kind of end this, because as always, this always happens with all of our guests, because we have such amazing topics to talk about that we always run out of show. We always run out of show time. I love the tips. I love the tips that you've given, those tips about, the fact that, and also as well, the fact that you're being very clear about who is the audience, who is it that we want to write for, and then starting your research to find the people and building that team, whether it's a literary agent, the publisher. And it very much, that's what I took away, that it is a team effort, whether you're looking to write your own book independently as a single author or as a co-author with other people. So John, honestly, you've been fantastic. I know that people are going to have a lot more sort of, comments and questions. So here's how you can get a hold of John. John's already mentioned, you've got his website that you can go to. In our resources document, we're going to be providing you with all the sort of contact information of how you can connect both with John and my fabulous co-host, Mark Smith, today as well. But I just want to kind of bring Mark quickly in, and literally, Mark, you've got like 60 seconds, because I know the comments sort of section kind of flooded in. So what were our viewers saying today? We haven't got time for questions, unfortunately, but I just want to kind of bring in what we were getting live today in the show. So Mark.
Yeah, so lots of feedback about making learning fun is the key to all learning. So lots of support for that side of things, John. Somebody's just gone and bought it, John. So there's an extra 15%.
I love that.
If people are interested in buying it, can I just make a personal plea? If you can come to Complete Careers, we get that 15%. If it goes through Amazon, we get a much reduced rate, even still from there. So that's my plea.
Yeah, I almost like fed you the line, didn't I? Yeah, so lots of inspiration. And people are also mentioning John's blog, but we're going to maybe touch on that in a little bit, John. So somebody's also mentioned what a wonderful blog John puts together. It's like a John Appreciation Society today, isn't it? So
it is.
Let's move on.
Hail John, isn't it? So speaking of moving on, okay, as always, thank you so much, John. You've been fabulous. I suspect that we're probably going to be having you on again, talking and exploring this, and perhaps maybe different subjects of specialism that I know that you are so passionate about. And so this really now helps us take, because it's time for the latest news stories for the CDI and the sector wide. And so I'm going to jump on in. All the information, all the links that I'm going to be sharing, that Mark's going to be sharing regarding today's news stories are all available in the resources document that our fabulous Liz will be uploading straight after the show today. And so Again, as always, it's always hard to sort of kind of pick some of the sort of top stories, but the one that I have picked for the CDI news, the first one is the CDI Listen survey. Now, as a CDI member, you've been invited to take part in, and you should have seen the survey already being sent out to you via email, on social media, plus also on the website as well. And if you haven't, and you're wondering what is the big CDI Big Listen survey, you've still got time to complete the survey. I did it this week on Monday. It took me about less than 15 minutes to complete it in total. The deadline is Monday, the 26th of July, so you've got still a few more days yet to complete that. The link for how you can complete the survey, plus all the emails that have been going out, will be available in your inbox and in the show resources document. Then also as well, easy ways to support your CPD this summer. There is the CDI Sustainability webinars, and they are looking for your input. Now, NICEAC's Excellent Career Development, As If the Planet Matters event, which explored the role of career development in addressing environmental issues. So our new CEO, I say new CEO, I mean, he's been in role now for a good month or so, David Morgan, announced that the CDI was developing a short series of webinars looking at sustainability for late autumn and early 2022. Climate change is a major issue facing humanity and will be driving not just green jobs, but also broader attitudes towards the world of work. So if you have any ideas or topics within sustainability, the CDI is excited and wants to hear from you, and you can email David directly. His email address will be included in the show resources document. And then finally, the CTRL, the CDI's Digital Skills Assessment for Career Practitioners. You've heard me talk about this. It was launched on the 13th of July with a Digital Bytes webinar. Now, the Digital Skills Assessment for Careers Practitioners competencies needed to feel it's about allowing us practitioners to feel confident using digital methods. Now, the assessment is based on digital skills in 16 workplace scenarios, and the scoring breakdown helps practitioners pinpoint their strengths and identifies development areas. Now, a detailed confidential report presents a wide range of practical suggestions, and the resources and links for enhancing this is available on the website. That's all for the CDI from today. Mark, what are your top three sector news stories that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, great. So I've dropped one because I've added another one in. So there is one on the briefing document that looks at the value of gaining GCSE grades and how that can support with lifetime earnings. That's on the page. Have a look at that one. But I'm going to jump straight to the one that I spotted that sort of filled me with an element of fear. And I went back to when I was 16. I spotted a study that mentioned that maths GCSE aids brain development, and there's a push for everyone to continue with maths after doing GCSEs. It was a study by the University of Oxford, looked at the gamma aminobutyric. There you go. I clearly didn't do science. My colleague Karen Watkins will kill me now because she's a scientist. Apparently, doing maths helps a sticky bit of your brain, so it helps you develop cognitive behavioural developments and stuff like that. So there's recommendations that everyone should continue with maths after GCSE. As I said, when I go back to my 16-year-old self, I probably thought that would be the worst idea ever. Lots of my students like maths. Certainly, lots of my students like maths, but certainly there's a camp who definitely don't. I did spot though, and something I always repeat to a lot of my students: maths is the post-16 biggest option choice. So out of all of the A-levels, 14% of people do A-level maths. So it's the biggest course post-16. So maybe I'm maybe I'm the person who doesn't like maths and everyone else does, but I'm not convinced on that one. But yeah, so there is an element of a push to continue with maths, even for those who do gain their A to C's, sort of fives upwards at GCSE level, and sort of looking into that a little bit more. Another one that my daughter sort of pointed out to me, and I use all sorts of bizarre sources, TikTok. I know we've all probably heard of TikTok and avoided it like the plague, because it's all about lip syncing to songs, apparently, but apparently it's not. Apparently it is not. So in the US, they are piloting this month, so in July, the opportunity to submit video resumes, so video CVs onto TikTok. And they have posted 400 jobs where you can put your CV, your video CV onto TikTok, and sort of apply for the jobs that way. So the piloting that in the US, clearly, let's be honest, if we're piloting something in the US and it's TikTok, it's heading our way at some point if the pilot goes well. So that's certainly something to look out for. And certainly for my practice, and I'm sure everyone else's practice who was watching this, is the summer term is crammed full of mock interviews and CV sessions with our students. This year, for the first MSPW careers, we did some online mock interviews using a database, which went really well. I think next year we'll be adding the idea of doing video CVs and how they might look, and sort of supporting students with having a look at those. So some interesting developments around TikTok and resumes, and as I said, I can't see that disappearing. That's only going to grow, and from a careers advisor point of view, something we're going to start adding in to certainly the sessions we do around mock interviews and things. And I suppose a big story that dropped on Thursday-ish, that you often wonder if they drop bad news in the summer. You know what I mean? But I don't think it was, but you do think, oh, that was badly timed. Just as we're all going off on our holidays and we're all thinking of some holidays, let's drop a real big document on all career advisors' shoulders for us all to read through. So the new statutory guidelines are an update of the statutory guidelines. Luckily for us all, there's a number of career practitioners, who took the time to read that, and I've spotted a number of social drops, as it were, with practitioners putting their spin on it, putting their updates on it, and we are lucky to be joined by somebody who did exactly that for us. I suppose my take homes from it, and John will probably correct me on this, was it's felt like they are now trying to go, okay, we've got things in place, we need to start measuring this more, we need to start sort of giving people responsibility for this. So there's a section for governors, sections for senior leadership teams that's pointing in that direction. There's a lot more around destinations, which seems to be, and I think there's an interesting surveys to be done here, and interesting research to be done. Seems to be that destinations is the measure. Would that be your take home, John, from it? And as I said, you did a wonderful blog on it, so I'd want to pass you just for maybe 30 seconds. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it does feel like it's more about quality. It's quite practical. So there's lots of resources and research all the way through, and who's there to help. It's also, looking a little bit beyond Gatsby as well. So it mentions there about the CDI framework, the quality and career standard is strongly recommended. But also the biggest thing in there, I think, that filters through is the Baker Clause strengthening. This is the access for education and training providers. So there's lots of musts. There's only 29 musts in the whole document, but most of them around that Baker Clause and the access for education and training providers. So,
yeah. I'm sure the CDI will be doing a lot more on that in the next few weeks. I'm sure I'll get round to reading the whole document at some stage, but the sun's out, term's just finished. I love careers guidance. But hey, we've all had a really, really, really busy year, haven't we? I think we all deserve a G&T in the garden and on a day like this. So.
Well, I feel that's such a great and beautiful place to sort of kind of wrap up today's show. So I want to firstly just thank you to our fabulous guests. Oh my God, John, you just were fantastic. Loved all the tips, loved everything that you shared. I think you've definitely given our viewers food for thought. And I'm excited to hear how many people you're now inspiring this summer to put pen to paper, or however it is that they're, sort of fingers to the laptop to sort of start turning out these book ideas, and let's see what we can produce with that. I want to say thank you to Mark. You've been an absolute fabulous co-host. Now, as I mentioned, in the resources document, you'll get access and you'll get information about both what John's been talking about here today, but also what Mark has shared as well. Plus, I know that Mark has included some extra bonuses, and I know bonus news stories as well. And even though Chris couldn't make it today, he's actually out a family wedding, so I know he's going to be watching us at some point later on during the week. So Chris, you were missed. Hopefully though, you made sure that in the resources document, Chris was like, I've got so many amazing good stories that I want our viewers to benefit from. So all those sector stories have also been included in the resources document as well. So it's all about helping you continue with your CPD and so taking out the overwhelm, because sometimes I know as practitioners you can wonder, God, there's so many places that you can go and find. And so what we do is we take that work out for you, and we do sort of like, pick out the best and the most relevant and the most useful stories that we feel, timely stories that are there. So really, without further ado, just to let you know, stay tuned, because our final show, talking about wrapping up for the summer, we've got our final show coming up in 2 weeks' time on the 4th of August. It'll be at 12 o'clock as always, and Chris will be back for the final show, and we're going to be celebrating the latest cohort of student career professionals in our virtual studios. So thank you, everybody, for you, the viewers, for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.